if we don't win the SEC, I think that the wheels have fallen off.
That's pretty far. I feel
like. maybe this is the bourbon.
Welcome to My Got It Podcast. I'm Jim Wood. In this episode, John Powell and I preview the 2021 season by taking a look at all three phases of the game, talking over the schedule, answering questions from our listeners, and we make a few predictions as well. As always, remember you can follow us on social media at My Got It Podcast. And if you like what you hear, please subscribe, rate, 5 stars obviously, and review the show. If you leave us a review, you just might hear it on an upcoming episode. Now, let's join the conversation in progress. So we're here.
We're here.
We made it.
It's actually a special day for us as well, Jim. So speaking of it being here, do you know what day it is?
Wednesday.
It's the official wide receiver of My Got a Podcast days away from kickoff.
Okay. Yes, that is true. And he retweeted our GIF that we made of him.
So excellent.
That was pretty cool.
That was really cool. It was nice.
So we feel seen by the official wide receiver.
Yeah, unofficial official. The very unofficial, very official.
That was pretty cool. That was cool. I was doing that last night, kind of perusing through, trying to figure out the right Kearis clip to use for 10 days. Because obviously, on some of the other days, you kind of have to think through who to use for the day. But I don't know, 10 was pretty easy because we love Kearis. So
10 was easy.
It's I was gonna where I thought you were going, but it wasn't, because I was gonna say it was a little off. Was it like a year ago we did our first episode, but I guess it was probably like less than a year ago, right? Because everything got started a little late. Last season, and also because if you recall, our season we had because we were so last minute. our first episode was season preview / Arkansas preview. We kind of did it all in one. Whereas this year we're able to actually break it up. So,
amen. Now we get a allegedly fully normal, full capacity My Got a Podcast and UGA slate.
I know. True. Yeah, that was. Yeah, I think like half of that first one we were talking about like what, how many games will we actually play?
What's gonna happen?
Yeah, is it gonna be
what's
crazy?
COVID?
Right. Exactly. So less of that, I guess. This year.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's hit it. Let's hit off. We're gonna actually. Okay. So overall macro, right? So we're gonna do season preview this week. So we're gonna look at really the entire season, or take a look at kind of the outlook for Georgia this season primarily, but also a little bit just around the SEC and the nation as a whole. So that's kind of the plan. And then we'll be back next week with an actual game to talk about. But even we're just looking at the season preview, it does feel good because, I don't know, like we've had various topics over the summer, and I think we keep saying, man, we really need football. Like, when I spend 20 minutes going over player pronunciations, you're like, oh, can we have some football, please?
Hold on. Are we really going to do that?
Yeah. Right. So
I feel like we do need that on some of these names, because I'm still a little fuzzy on some of the pronunciations, and do I carry the one with some of these accents? I don't know.
True. Well, actually, if we need help, we could bring in a special guest like Scott Howard to tell us, hey, Scott Howard, is it Eric Gilbert or is it Arik Gilbert?
Arik Gilbert.
Whoa. That was perfect timing, Scott. Thank you for joining us.
So I had to surprise you with that, John. So
what's how do you say Mitchell's last name or first name?
Adonai Mitchell.
Wow, that's phenomenal. Thank you, Scott. That's so enriching. Are there any other ones that we need to be aware of, Scott? Can you help me out here?
Lavoisier Carroll.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that guy. Yep, that's a good one.
And just in case you didn't know,
Robert Beal.
that was for Logan. That was for Logan.
Excellent.
So I've got to be careful. I've got to be careful with the soundboard because I don't know, you might shoot me. So I'll try to take it easy with it.
No, I'm a big fan of the soundboard, particularly the soundboard that Logan has. I'm a little bit jealous actually because I would love to just drop in some Outcast clips and things like that when we're talking about our pride and joy wide receiver. Things like that would be super fun.
Right. So, okay. So I had to drop that in. That's kind of funny how that actually worked its way in anyways. I was going to do that later. But when it happens naturally, it's even better.
We just roll with the punches here at My God Podcast, Joe.
That's right. So on the in and out stuff, because it's been actually, you know what? I didn't even mention because we were off last week because you were on vacation.
I was on vacation,
and you were tagging us all on Instagram and the Twitter. With all of your exotic locale pics from the beach, which was very nice. So for those tuning in last episode, you did make it on your vacation even with the ankle injury.
I did.
We were all following along on social media, so it looked like it was a good time.
I'm hoping that whatever angelic beings wrapped their warm embrace around my ankle at that time are also embracing the University of Georgia players, mostly in bubble wrap, particularly for the next few weeks here.
Yes.
But also just to swiftly recover from some of the dings and knocks that are apparently out there, which I know we'll probably get to some of that in a little bit. But I was able to walk around just fine. A matter of fact, the day of the flight, I kind of was like, you know what? I don't know that I need the boot. And I know that from experience, having the boot just prolongs the recovery because immobilizing it just I kind of felt like I could just walk around and it's a little sore. It's definitely still a little swollen and stuff. So, but there's not a lot of pain. So it's like a Christmas miracle. It really is because it felt like a previous injury that I had that was much more devastating and required surgery. It felt the same way. So that's what I thought had happened.
Well, you fighting through and not using the boot and to speed up the recovery, all I can see in my head is John Lithgow in the movie Ricochet getting over his being shot in the knee by Denzel Washington. Great movie.
I feel like that's a very, very vague for many people listening to this show right now.
Yeah.
Including me.
Right. Tweet us if you got that one. Okay. So on that injury front, it's interesting. Actually, we have a lot of foot injuries, not unlike you. So we got Tyke Smith and Darnell Washington both out with injuries to a foot. I think we've seen pictures of Darnell in a boot. So it's sounding like they're both out, most likely for Clemson. We don't know. We've got Avery Gilbert. We don't know exactly what's going on with him, so he's out for personal reasons. So, again, much like with Scott Cochran, we won't speculate on what that is. Just hope that he, gets whatever it is that he needs for him. So best wishes for him. I guess I would say,
come back. Please figure things out so that you can come back.
Yeah. And then Aaron Smith, just saw mention that he has turf toe. So it's, doesn't sounds like people are saying that he'll be back and ready to go, but turf toe always scares me. Like I just remember like in the late '90s, like Patrick Pass had turf toe for like it seemed like 2 years. And
Well,
then,
I was gonna say, didn't AJ suffer from turf toe for for multiple games and things like that? Like it was like an ongoing injury. I felt like that AJ always had.
It lingers. It lingers. I can speak to it. I had turf toe a couple years ago, and it's like just now getting better.
What the heck even is it? I don't even know.
It's basically like a sprain of your big toe. So like for me, like I mean, okay, super embarrassing, but I'll just go. We're here, so I can go ahead and finish what I was saying. So I was playing golf, and we were like at the driving range at this course.
The injury starts with golf. It's amazing.
It wasn't even like playing. Actually, it's much worse. It's about to get worse. So we're at the driving range, and at this club, like when you leave the driving range, there were like natural stone steps like back down to the cart path. And
tricky,
it was,
very tricky.
It was right, and it was like early in the morning. There was dew all over everything, and I've got like my spikes on, and so when I was walking down the steps, and with my right foot hit, I mean, I did like total like Charlie Brown, like my right foot went straight out in front of me. I had my golf bag over my shoulder, I fell, and so like my left foot, like my left knee, bent. And I fell backwards and my foot was underneath me. And so like my big toe caught and bent back really bad. Nothing snapped or anything. But so it was just like, it's like a sprain or whatever of the ligaments. So I hobbled around and finished the round if in case you were wondering, but at any rate, when I went to the doctor, like months later, because I was like, oh, it'll just heal, and it never did. They were like, oh, you have turf toe. So that's what it was.
You picked up turf toe from a golf injury. That's
right.
But you did finish. I'm sure the 15 beers probably didn't hurt either.
Yeah, it was not a good round. I'll say that. So
I'm sure. I mean, you got use of your big toe limits the driving range. I'm sure.
Yeah. But so, anyways, like the interesting thing was then in Kirby's media availability after the scrimmage, he got asked about all these guys that are out, and my question was like, because he said that he expects to be full tilt for Clemson. I don't know if you saw that. So when I first saw that, my concern was like, was full tilt this year is hopeful? Where I remember last year, every game he was hopeful. The count would be back like every week. So that was my thought when I read it. But then actually today I went and listened on the Bulldogs podcast. And before the full tilt comment, he actually said that he was hopeful about them. So I was like, no. So
we're hopeful that we'll be full tilt.
Right, exactly. So I would assume that those guys are all going to be out. But that was the main thing I got from the media availability. I don't know if you saw anything, but that was all that I saw.
No,
there wasn't a whole lot this week.
The only thing that I've seen on the injury front is it looked like that. It looked like that we've got Washington on some highlight videos that the university just put out. There was a big question mark as to when was this footage taken, kind of thing.
Right. True. I
did
see that.
Yeah. And then our coveted wide receiver on the other side of the field is also in pads, at least running and practicing. So that was also promising as well.
Oh yeah, Pickens. Yeah, we saw some images of him surface in pads. That was very interesting. I was not expecting to see that.
Correct. Yeah.
Certainly not by now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Like I said, maybe the Angels have embraced his ACL and have just completely wrapped it in bubble wrap and quick healing, prayers and things like that. So, That could be what's going on there, Jim. It's going
Could be.
around.
Could be. It started with your ankle, and now it's moving to the team.
We really need to avoid these snake bit issues because
Right.
it really felt like, and I almost want to like not necessarily like blame, but I'm certainly going to say that there might be some bad juju around the conversation that we had with Logan, where we were like, literally anything that comes up is going to be, you don't want any headlines between now and
Yeah.
the game time. And literally every headline I feel like comes out, it's like bomb after bomb after bomb. It's been nothing but like bad news for us.
Yeah. Curse you, Logan Booker.
Don't you put that evil on me, Logan Booker.
So I had two non-Georgia things quickly that I've seen of late, and then we'll hop into the season. So one is have to give a shout out to my cousin, Sammy Brown, for his huge game last week for Jefferson. They beat Raven County and Gunner Stockton in the first game. If you haven't seen Sammy, he's got great hair, and all I'll say is that just clearly runs in the family. So it was a great game.
Does Sammy have
I'm being serious. He is my cousin. I've never met him, but he is my cousin.
Does Sammy have a nickname? Because that hair is just screaming something like Roadhouse or something like that.
Yeah, he does. He has. I mean, his hair is amazing. It's amazing. I don't know, Thor or something. Although it's definitely a little bit more business on top than Thor. I don't know.
For sure.
And the only other thing, and I guess this is kind of a non-story, I feel like after what we saw today, is the alliance between. I mean,
sorry. Hold on. Okay. Hold on. I'm going to try to keep it together. Jim.
Well, because what was the game that got scheduled today? Like 1 day into the alliance?
We're 1 day into the alliance, and the alliance is crumbling.
I already forgot what it was. Do you remember what was it?
USC agreed to play LSU.
I mean, you can't make it up. You can't make it up. So I feel like there's no need to even talk about the alliance because clearly the handshake deal of the alliance does not mean much. I guess, apparently.
There are several certainties with the alliance. Number one, well, I guess there's, I said several. So several certainties with the alliance. Number one, they literally can't help themselves. They can't quit you. I can't quit you, SEC. I think I tweeted out a GIF of Thanos from the Avengers along these lines, talking about this, that the SEC is inevitable. I am inevitable. Like all roads lead to me. And so obviously the very next day, literally the most storied program from one of the key like cornerstones of this quote unquote alliance in a major media market goes and signs one of the big SEC programs. And it's like, I imagine what it must have been like for the Big Ten and the ACC and whoever else is involved in this.
There it is right there, right? There's the Pac, whatever they are, the Pac-12.
Yeah, Pac-12. No, they were excluded, I thought. Oh, yeah, the Pac-12.
Because that's where USC is, right?
So it's the Big 12. Yeah, sorry.
Big 12 got left out.
Yeah, sorry, I got confused for a second. So I can only imagine what the other conferences and, I guess the conference commissioners, although they probably would have had at least a heads up at the Pac-12 that this was happening. Right. They're probably just bracing themselves for the emails from the other commissioners like, what the? WTF, dude?
It's so crazy. It's so crazy. I mean, especially after all like the articles that were written, like the day the alliance was announced, I'm like, like the SEC like overplayed their hand and everything, So,
what are we going to do with non-conference scheduling, guys?
Right.
We'll figure it out.
You're going to schedule USC.
So I didn't finish my list. So that happened. Then the other two things that are like for certain is that number one, like the ACC has so many crossover games with the SEC. They're probably, and not to mention the fact that their media rights deal is so far, like for the next 15 years, they can't do anything about it. So they're like, yeah, you guys have fun with our alliance. Yeah, guys.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
And then you've got the other thing that was made certain was that, the Big 12 is basically dead. Because it's like we have this wonderful alliance of other conferences, and it's like, oh yeah, what about them? Yeah, they don't matter anymore.
Yep. Yeah. It's I again, get off my lawn, but like I don't like it. But I do think the alliance. It is funny to me. One day in, we've got this again. So
I can't wait for the day that Greg Sankey knocks on the door of one of these blue bloods, Penn State, Michigan, USC, Ohio State, maybe even Clemson and Georgia Tech at some point or something like that. I don't know. Florida State, he's going to knock on the door of one of these guys.
Georgia Tech had their chance. They left.
That's true.
You can't come back. You can't come back.
That's true. Anyway, he's going to knock on their door, or they're going to knock on his door, and it's going to be like, they're joining the SEC. It would, at this point, literally nothing would surprise me.
No, that's true. But I mean, 16 is a nice round number. Like, I feel like 16 makes more sense than 14. We'll see how it all goes. Again, I would always rather contract. If you're going to expand again, at least do something regionally. Like, can we not stay in the Southeast? But whatever, get off my lawn. That's how I feel. All right, let's talk about the season at hand, because we're here to do the season preview. So, we'll take a look at what we think we're going to see here for our dogs in 2021, and talking about thinking back to our season preview last year. I think what we opened with was basically the story of the summer. Or really the story of the entire offseason last year was quarterback, right? With Fromm leaving early, and then Newman transferring in, and then Newman opting out, Newman transferring in, then Daniels transferring in, then Newman opting out. Can Daniels play? Can't he play? All that stuff, right? And then ultimately Dwan Mathis and then Bennett is where we landed. But that was the huge swirling thing. So it is kind of nice to come into a year without such, I don't know, I don't want to say controversy.
A returning starting quarterback.
Yeah. We don't have those question marks there. We've got a starter coming back. So I don't know, definitely a different. I mean, obviously there's a lot of other things, but that's a huge difference from last year.
Well, we'll really know that we are back to normalcy when people start clamoring for Brock after the first series, after the first unsuccessful series. At that point, we can all look around and be like, okay, we're back to normal. Everything's fine. Let's move on.
Sure. Well, I mean, remember the oohs and ahs in this ring game, that when he took off running, I was like, oh, that kid's pretty fast.
Yeah, exactly.
But so I don't know, that's the kind of difference of the feeling last year. But then I know, also going into this year, you had texted me recently about we always hear the Richt versus Kirby narrative and comparisons, and Kirby's Richt 2.0 and all this kind of stuff. So I know you had texted me some stuff about that a little bit. So you want to hit on that a little bit?
I mean, yeah, I can't remember exactly where it was that I saw this. I want to say it would have been something along the lines of maybe a Graham article or a Seth Emerson article or something. But yeah, I mean, basically the gist is all the comparisons for Richt and Kirby have been eerily similar. Obviously, Kirby came a little bit closer. He's had more success as of late. But basically, I think what were they? Richt after 5 seasons was 52-13, and Smart after 5 seasons is 52-14. And each of them have had 4 top 10 finishes. Where I think that this year is going to be the year for Kirby to really separate himself from that conversation, because year 6 is when things the cracks started being exposed for Richt. So Richt went 9-4 and finished number 23 in the country in year 6. So
Yeah.
if we finish 9-4, I have a feeling that there's going to be some serious panic.
Right.
So this is a great opportunity for him to kind of separate himself from some of that, particularly if it ends in any sort of fashion with some additional silverware that would, kind of separate himself, whether that be a playoff win, an SEC championship, etc. So, anyway, that's kind of my 2 cents on looking at this season from a Kirby's perspective as a career kind of where am I at? And if you're Josh Brooks, I almost said Greg, golly. If you're Josh Brooks, you're looking at this and you're saying, how are things going, Kirby? And this is his opportunity to really make a statement, particularly with the team, particularly with the schedule that he's got. And then you've got the 2 big thorns in our side, and really 3 if you want to throw in an LSU. But like Florida is down, obviously Tennessee's down, Alabama is allegedly down.
Don't say such things. Don't say such things.
Well, I say that they're replacing a quarterback. So
right.
Anyway, they're not only replacing a quarterback, but as we've seen, like they're replacing wide receivers too, which obviously bears a lot of success on the offensive side. But yeah, anyway, would be a great year to put a lot of that stuff to bed with capping the season with the national championship. That would be phenomenal.
Well, yeah, obviously. Yeah. I mean, I think the comparisons were always like, they're always dumb. Especially like to this point, it's like, oh, he's just like Rick. It's like, well, first 5 years of Rick's career were pretty awesome in Georgia. Like, that's a good thing. I was like, Mark Richt didn't get fired because of the first 5 years at Georgia kind of deal. So it's always kind of silly, but it would be nice to have like numbers and data to separate it, just to shut everyone up. I mean, ultimately, it probably doesn't ever really end until we win a national championship.
Well, the thing is
it kind of is what it is, but
talking about numbers and data, I think like a data point that I would tend to point to, and I've seen others point to, is the blue chip ratio. Like our blue chip ratio has been elevated substantially. So, but to that end, like that's when people start looking at, well, why isn't he better? Well,
right.
He didn't have to deal with some of the things that Kirby has to deal with.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean,
Saban wasn't at Alabama at that time, so
right. Yep, exactly. So yeah, it would be nice to get, I don't know, just to get that kind of monkey off Kirby's back, I guess. So I don't know. We'll see if that comes to fruition this year.
For sure.
You want to go a little, just kind of talk through the team a bit. And I don't know, I guess I thought we could go kind of offense, defense, special teams. Is there a phase of the team you want to do first? Like, do you want to talk about offense first? Do you want to talk about?
Well, I think that we would be remiss to not at least seriously and critically look at the defense, particularly in the secondary, because Tyke Smith being out, I think really kind of changed a lot for me. Yeah. And I get that there's been a lot of buzz about Brainy, and maybe Scott can help me out with that. Is that the right pronunciation, Scott? I'm not 100% positive, but maybe Scott can jump in there at some point.
Scott, I lost him.
Scott, you got to stay on the line. We'll see if we can get him back on. We'll see if we can get him back on the horn. Obviously Tyke Smith being out is a huge impact. By all intents and purposes, he was going to be, it seemed to be like from an on paper standpoint, was going to be an immediate contributor. So him being out is a huge loss at a position of need. Yeah. If nothing else, it is a depth concern. So let's say the worst comes to worst, Jim, knock on your head. If anybody were to get hurt, then the depth immediately can get exposed, and that now we're back to square one kind of thing. So we it's kind of like the defensive side of our last year problem, where we had all this depth at quarterback, and then suddenly it evaporates in a matter of weeks.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
just flip it to one of the most important positions, the star position on the defensive side.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well, it's interesting too, right? Because with the secondary being thin, we went to the transfer portal. Thin because of both graduation and transfers, with Stevenson leaving and Burns leaving. And I know it kind of, where we're at though now kind of, I think validates what Kirby had said, with his offseason availability around, hey, you just went to the portal and got all these guys. And, he was talking about how that's kind of like the last resort. You really need to build your program through recruiting and teaching and developing. And so we're going to see where we are, right, with those guys that were already here. And I mean, I remember actually thinking back to when we were doing the post game in Cincinnati. And I remember you talking about how your neighbor buddy, who's a Cincinnati guy, like texting you and being like, who's this Breedy guy? Like, he's awesome. And he was like, well, like, this is really like our first, action we've seen him play, like for extended playing time was in the bowl game last year. And he did do great. So, and again, I'll say it again. Like, I think Cincinnati was actually really good last year. So I don't know. I think that bodes well. I do feel good about him. I mean, the DBs are going to be tested early on, right? I mean, right off the bat, game one with Uli Ungalele, guy can sling it, and he can run as well. So we'll see there. I mean, like we've had, if you think back again, last year, small sample size, right? Way less games. But like if you think back to 2 years ago, in 2019, it was, we kept questioning how good is the defense really. And then like when they finally ran into a juggernaut offense like LSU, they couldn't handle it. Right. And we saw, really the same thing with Alabama the year before in the SEC championship game. And then the same thing actually ended up happening last year, right? Against Florida and against Alabama. So I think, we're going to see one of those big time offenses right off the bat in game one. I mean, I think we're going to learn a lot the first game, not to preview Clemson. We'll do that next week, but I think we're going to learn a lot about the defense week one. And yeah, the DBs are definitely, I think, but the most worrisome unit, right? I think that's pretty fair to say in the defense. But I mean, the line and the linebackers are nuts again, right? I mean, that's where we've got all the hashtag run it back, hashtag unfinished business from end of the year last year, right? I mean, we got Jordan Davis back, we got Wyatt back. Hey, we got Rochester back, year 6.
I know, right?
Right, but I mean, we got Jalen Carter, and then just those linebackers, right? I mean, and we've got these guys, like we've said, right? I mean, they weren't able to play as much last year because we had Azeez Ojulari was playing out of his mind, and then another transfer out, Jermaine Johnson was starting, right? So, we're going to find out, these guys like Nolan Smith and Adam Anderson, like we've been kind of waiting and we've seen the flashes, especially with Anderson. It always has felt like whenever he was in, God, the guy's so fast. And like, we always kind of feel like, why doesn't he play more? And it's because of the guys who's behind. But so now this year, I mean, we're going to see, right?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. I mean, you got guys like Keely Ringo, who need to have, they really need to step up because their pedigree precedes them from a reputation standpoint. And you'd like to see some of that matriculate onto the field. Well, there was a guy, and I feel like, I was just trying to search around, it just came to my head, but there was a guy recently in one of the scrimmages that came down with some interceptions, or was it the spring game? I can't remember exactly, but there was a guy that came down with several interceptions.
Yeah,
I felt like
in the spring game, it was at Dan Jackson, right? The walk-on,
mm-hmm.
or either is he still a walk-on, or he's a former walk-on? But he had a pick in the spring game, and Kirby, I know, signaled him out after the last scrimmage. Talked about him a little bit, and also I know Seth Emerson mentioned him in one of his more recent articles, just as a guy to watch out for. He wasn't saying like, he's obviously not pushing like, Scene or Chris Smith to like take a starting role or anything like that. But he basically said that he'll be one of the first guys off the bench to come in at safety. So
right.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a couple of names that I've heard that I'm like, wait, I don't know that I've heard that name here recently on both the offense and the defense. I feel like with Darnell Washington going down, I know that we're going to see some more action from the tight end core from some people that may not have been. Brock Bowers may see a lot more time, which I think he was going to see some time anyway. But, Darnell Washington not being there. Eric, Scott, you there? Eric
Gilbert.
Thank you, Scott. If he were still around, obviously I think some of those snaps would be limited as well. So, So I think Brock Bowers might be a guy that we get to see what he's made of, because you've heard a lot of hype coming out of camp. You've heard a lot of talk about him. We've seen some of it ourselves with our own two eyes in the spring game. So I feel like that he might be a guy to watch on the offensive side based on everything that we're hearing. But then again, we also heard a lot and saw a lot out of Stetson for quite some time as well. So I don't know if it's going to be all hype. That may not be particularly fair to either guy, but I just expect when you hear where there's smoke, there's fire, and I'm expecting some fire from that guy.
I think so too, and I think like with to compare with the Stetson hype, I mean like the most we ever heard about him before he's got to really play, right? Was Rose Bowl, right? Rose Bowl practices, right? And then also like this time last year, was when basically the coaches told Stetson like, you're not really in this race, right? So I don't know, but I'm with you, man. Like Bowers in the spring game, the first time I saw him, I was like, I think I've said this before on here, but it's like, man, that reminds me of Isaac Nauta, right? Like he jumped off my TV, like, holy cow, I got Isaac Nauta. So that was exciting. And he wears a great number in 19. So I don't know, that's great. I don't know. He's one to watch for me for sure, as far as new faces. And I think we just kind of transitioned into the offense, which is good. I mean, with Washington out, but to still have the depth of tight end with Fitzpatrick and Bowers is good. Our wide receiver depth is really being tested right now, right? So with Pickens, who knows if he may come back at some point in the season, but definitely out for now. We had Gilbert was supposed to play mainly receiver, but I think obviously would have seen that the tight end some as well. So we'll see with the rest of the guys. Robertson left, right? He's at Auburn. So we'll see with obviously, I mean, Jackson surprised us last year. He will not surprise us this year, right? We will not be surprised by Kearis this year. But what I'm really curious to see, coming in here, if
Adonai Mitchell
can replicate, in the season what he did in the spring game, because that was shocking to me. Like I was not prepared for him to do anything like that. So that was really cool. And then, I am very excited to see Burton, to see the progression, because he looked really good as a freshman, right? And I don't know, there's always usually there's a pretty big jump with these guys when they're going from their freshman year to their sophomore year. Just, got some consistency, knows the playbook, another year in the system, bigger, faster, stronger, older, etc. So I'm excited to see what he does there. So there's a lot. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I said, the depth will be tested, but the good thing is that we had that depth, right? We've got all these guys, and I didn't even mention everyone, but
yeah, I was about to say, some of the defensive guys even come to mind that we didn't even touch on. I don't know if Scott can help me on this one. Isn't it Smile Mundan?
Smile Mundan.
Mundan. Yep. Smile is another name that I've heard coming out of camp that seems like he has been picking up a lot of hype as well on the other side of the balls. Kind of on that same Brock Bowers kind of mindset.
Yeah. And as far as with other new names on the offense too, like we'll see, I am super interested to see who trots out as a starting five, against Clemson. Maybe we can predict that next week when we preview Clemson, but Amarius Mims is a name that we've heard, another true freshman, can he be, and it's a big ask to say, can you come in and be Andrew Thomas? So I don't want to put that on him, but if he could contribute this year, that would be huge. So, and I think, I mean, again, just like on the defense where we said the defensive backfield is, if you're going to pick a weak spot or whatever, that would be it. I think the offensive line to me is the biggest question mark on the offense. We're pretty set at quarterback. Obviously, we love what we've seen from JT, and we've heard good things about Carson Beck as well, and we saw good things from him in the spring game, which is, funny, like you said, will be calm for Brock Vandegrift, but or someone will, and we'll know things are back to normal. But we can't forget about Beck as well. So we've got the depth at quarterback. We have all the depth at running back. I mean, we've got 5 guys, right? I mean, we threw out the My God Podcast wallpaper Wednesday last week. Man, I just went really far in the future. Last week and had the top 4 guys. And after I did it, I was talking to my dad about the running backs and and how we're 5 deep. And I felt kind of bad that I left
Dejon Edwards.
So I kind of felt bad that I left him off. But which, by the way, did you know that's how you say his first name? I feel like I said Dejan. It's Dejan.
I have definitely been saying Dejan.
Dejon Edwards.
Sorry, I can't help myself. So, but I mean, I will say too, I know, offensive philosophy, everyone's all excited about Monken and with JT Daniels and opening the ball up. When you got 5 backs like we've got, and we've got, some injury issues and we're missing folks out wide, I mean, don't be shocked to see us lean on the running backs. And I tweeted something to the effect, don't mistake, leaning on the running backs as leaning on the running game. So, necessarily, these guys are going to get involved in multiple ways. And I think back to 2014, when Gurley was suspended and we saw Chubb emerge while Gurley was out. And then when Gurley came back, right, I mean, unfortunately for 3.5 quarters. But in that Auburn game, I remember sitting in the stadium and we had Chubb and Gurley in the backfield, we were in the shotgun, and who was it? It was Mason, actually. Mason had Gurley to his right and Chubb to his left, fake a screen to Gurley and throw a screen to Chubb, that kind of stuff. I mean, if these guys, we know what Cook can do out of the backfield. And I've been looking at some of the games from last year, and I was actually kind of surprised to see how many times Zamir White caught the ball out of the backfield. I feel like we're all kind of sleeping on Zamir White. And everyone's looking for a big breakout year from Kendall Milton. And, we got how do you like the apples, Kenny McIntosh. And these guys are versatile. I mean, especially you think about, Cook and McIntosh, super versatile. Zamir and Kendall, a bit more bruisers, right? But also still have speed. And we've liked what we've seen from Dejon Edwards. So I just think we're going to see a heavy dose of those guys. And again, not always necessarily hand the ball off to them either. I mean, we can see, Cook on a wheel route, Cook in the slot, etc. So I'm definitely excited to see year 2 of this Monken offense with a guy who can get the ball to all those open players. They won't even necessarily see receivers, right? Because it was coming from different positions.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that you were just saying. I think one of the things that that you mentioned at first, and I was just going to let you finish because you were on a roll. But it was one of the first things you mentioned that I wanted to jump in. You were saying that you were concerned about the offensive line. I too was also concerned about the offensive line, just because we seemed like we weren't really getting a whole lot of push in some of our more challenging games, particularly against Cincinnati, for the running game to really get going and grinding. Which meant that we had to really more so rely on some of the big arm passing from that beautiful man, JT Daniels. That he gets knocked on. I feel like that in a lot of this preseason stuff, he gets knocked on because he had some interceptable balls or turnover worthy plays or whatever that metric is called. It's like, well, I mean, we're going to take some shots, and that's something that that Monken has clearly done, because we lamented for so long about taking those shots with Stetson and Dewan. Like, man, if we only had a quarterback. Well, it seems like we have a quarterback, and I'm hoping that he's gotten a little bit better from last year, being a little bit more in sync. But more importantly, the offensive line, coming out of the scrimmages most recently, I think it wasn't it Buck Bellew, who kind of gave a rundown of some of his takeaways for having been a witness to that game, because I think that there was some kind of UGA alumni Letterman's Club kind of event that was going on at the university there. They had some alumni in town, and I remember Buck saying that he had to kind of pull away and remember that he was there to kind of watch the scrimmage as opposed to hang out with the fellowship. So, but one of the things that he mentioned specifically was he is no longer concerned at all about the offensive line. And he said that pretty emphatically too.
Interesting.
So if the, one of the UGA great quarterbacks is not concerned about the offensive line, that's actually, in my opinion, that kind of says something, because he's there on the ground. He's watching them play against a pretty stout defensive unit in the one. So if the ones are going against if they're doing ones on ones, then he's seeing, quality versus quality, I'm hoping, and is saying that there are no concerns, that Matt Lake's got things figured out. And maybe he does, having a full deck of cards, a full time period, to a normal-ish time period to get things squared away. So maybe, time heals wounds with the offensive line there, to use a phrase. And I'm hoping that that's the case, because if our offensive line can get going and they can get push and they can get blocking schemes figured out for that stout defensive line against Clemson, we are absolutely going to carve people up. And the depth that we have at running back, the depth that we have at wide receiver, someone's going to make plays.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm with you. I mean, last year we had the plays were there, right? The plays were there. I think this year we're set up where if those plays are there, we'll be able to execute. I mean, I guess quickly on the special teams, because we can't leave that out. I'll just say, last year we actually forgot to talk about Scott Cochran in our first episode, our preview episode. So the special teams definitely got better last year. So again, Cochran's not currently here; he's away for personal reasons. But so we've got Muschamp there. So I mean, and hearing Kirby talking about it sounds like still special teams are, while there is a special teams coordinator, they're still pretty divvied up amongst various coaches. So I I don't know. I guess I don't expect much to change there. I kind of expect special teams to keep rolling like they were last year. With Jack Pod taking field goals, Kamara punting, and then our guy Kyrus Jackson and Kenny McIntosh in the return game. I mean, those guys were both really good in the return game last year, so hope to see that continue as well. One thing that I think is going to be interesting to see is last year as we were going through, especially in the early season when we were undefeated, like kind of the mantra of the podcast was in the defense we trust, right? That's what we kept leaning on. So I don't know what it's going to be this year, and I don't know like if we should even try to predict one or anything. Probably not. But that's something to kind of keep an eye on, right? Like what are the things that we're going to start saying about this year? I don't know. I can't wait for the season to start so we can find that kind of stuff out. So
yes. So I think that for me, it's in Kirby we trust. I think that's kind of been my
nice.
that's been my go-to. I think that was the name of the text thread that we've got going on is
that's true.
in Kirby we trust, and we have an epic GIF that will probably maybe now would be a good time to unfurl it from the podcast account. But in Kirby we trust. So he has filled the gaps where he's needed to fill. He has lifted the staff every which way. Scott Cochran leaves, and we have filled the special teams role with Agent Muschamp is now
Yes.
an on-field coach for the university, something we kind of all saw coming eventually. So I mean, the guy is literally doing everything that the University of Georgia is paying him to do. And he seems to be, doing everything at an elite level. Mm-hmm. Probably better than 98% or 99% of the entirety of college football coaches, with the exception of maybe Nick Saban. But, and that's something that he's going to have to get off his back this year. And I believe that he's building a team. His blue chip ratio has been increasing. A metric that we're going to be looking at, since this is a season preview, is going to be net yards per play. I've become, in the recent weeks, looking at some of the stuff that the Senator has put out from a statistical standpoint. I'll be watching what he's tracking from a net yards per play as the games go along, and we'll probably be talking about it here. But that kind of really is going to be a barometer for how this team does.
I feel like you just channeled Josh Hunter, aka Dog Stats. he actually put out a nice graphic of like I'm losing track of our episodes now, but I think it might have been the last one because you were talking about what was the stat, and I think it was at net yards per play, and he put out a nice graphic to kind of go along with our conversation from last time. That's pretty cool. But you'll have to keep me on the stats. I'm not as good on the stats. I'm more of a I'm more like in my feelings with football that kind of stuff. But it's interesting to me. It definitely is interesting to me.
Fortunately, there are a number of smarter people than I am that track a lot of this information. It's not my skill set to build out a lot of those metrics, but thankfully, Dog Stats and the good Senator are doing the Lord's work for us all, and we will certainly be monitoring that and mentioning them along the way. So,
hashtag
buckle up. FTMF.
Yeah. Exactly.
Absolutely.
All right, we've got a bunch of listener questions. I had a couple of things on the schedule before that. Like, just looking at the schedule, a couple of things jumped out to me. So, like, we're back to somewhat more normal. Like, everything was out of whack last year, obviously. SEC only. Teams were not where they should be as far as, like, in the flow of the season. So we do have South Carolina back early in the season. Remember last year they were like right there at the end. So now we've got them back as our first SEC game. But we do.
That has side note.
Yeah.
Historically, my birthday weekend.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Or my birthday week, I guess I should say.
Right. Right. I mean, you've had like birthday months this year because you had your birthday trip. So you're really stringing it out long this year.
I can't help when Grandpa could watch the kids. Jim, thank you.
It's fine. It's fine.
Also,
it worked out great for me because you went out of town like during the off season, so it doesn't impact the Mike on a podcast schedule.
Exactly. That's what I was just about to say.
It's like Mike on a vacation.
These are the sacrifices I make for the podcast. As I go on vacation in the off season, so that I can be full tilt. So I'm gonna be full tilt for the fall.
That's our new saying. Is everything's going full tilt.
Full tilt.
But so you've got South Carolina back again early, which is good. But now we're seeing like the new rotation, like on a normal year, where Auburn and Tennessee have flipped. So I still don't like that. Get off my lawn. Auburn is in October, and then Tennessee is in November. So I don't like that, but I'd say I should get used to it. But I guess with Texas and Oklahoma coming in, everything's going to change anyway. So I guess I shouldn't worry about it because it's all going to change. Hopefully, we just don't lose the Auburn game at least.
Buckle up, Buttercup.
Yeah, and then the other thing with it is like I feel like we tend to say that this is like one of the down years for the home schedule, right? So because you've got as far as traditional rivals, you've got Auburn is away, Tennessee is away, and Georgia Tech is away. And so once again, thank you, Greg McGarity, for agreeing to play at Auburn twice with getting nothing back in return. But I guess my one kind of question is like, is it really that bad? Because if you think about with the way college football is right now and the way the SEC is and the way these teams are playing, I mean, you could argue that we might actually have our best opponents at home this year as far as in the conference. I mean, you're always going to play Florida neutral site. But I mean, Auburn and Tennessee, but then you've got Kentucky and Missouri at home. I don't know. I mean, are Kentucky and Missouri better teams than Auburn and Tennessee? I mean, I think certainly better than Tennessee.
So I would say that Missouri, I'm going to file Missouri under a trap game. I also am going to file Kentucky under a potential trap game too, because Kentucky is returning the most. I think Kentucky has the most number of seniors in the entire country.
Okay.
So obviously that's like a metric that exists out there to track like, the how old your team is, obviously, but more so like how experienced your team is. So Kentucky's got a lot of experience. They've also got a lot of gaps that they're trying to refill. So I think that their quarterback just announced that he was transferring or something like that.
He's going to UCF to reunite with Malzahn.
Right. So obviously they've got some stuff going on, but those are two trap games that I would say, but we should definitely handle them. But if you're looking for someone to sneak up, those are the two that I have that I'm watching.
Okay. Fair enough. Let's see. You want to hit some listener questions, and then those include some predictions, and then we'll get to some kind of season predictions at the end. You cool with that?
I love listener questions, Jim. Right. I love it.
So we've got a mixture because some of these are actually from when we solicited last episode and we weren't specific enough, and we got some kind of things that we felt worked with the season preview. So we'll start with those. This first one is funny because it kind of actually somewhat ties into what you were just saying. So this is from 5127 GATA. He says, thoughts on the UAB game. Personally, I think it's a major trap game. So you just listed Kentucky and Missouri as trap games. 5127 GATA says UAB. One of the things that I'm not sure. So I started thinking about like kind of what's the definition of a trap game. And like the one thing that jumped out to me was like based on the preseason AP poll, UAB is actually like our fourth best opponent as far as AP like votes receiving, behind obviously Clemson, right? Preseason number 3. Florida is 13, and then Auburn is in the other. Auburn and UAB are both in the others receiving votes category. So Auburn has more, not enough to make it a top 25, but has more than UAB. So, but I guess I think in the coaches poll though, like Kentucky has more votes or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, I know when we had Logan and Carter on, right? We talked a little bit about that game and like not to worry about it so much. But I mean, I don't know. Like they do have a lot of guys coming back. So
I don't know. I'm not too concerned about it, to be honest with you.
I mean, for me reading the tea leaves, I know you mentioned Kentucky and Missouri as your trap games. I mean, I think those make more sense as trap games, someone that kind of come up and bite you than say a UAB.
I mean, how long ago did UAB re-kick off their program?
I think they've only been back for 2 years. I think.
Yeah.
I think this is year 3 of the return. I could totally be wrong, and someone's probably like yelling at their podcast or whatever. But I think this is year 3.
That would be reason number 1 through 99 that I would not
I know
be
that they were like
this
unexpectedly good last season, and I think they've got everyone back kind of deal. So I don't want to be dismissive of them, but I think there's other games that I'd be more worried about them. I think that's the way I would say it.
I also think that there are other comparative. I think there's anything that we're comparing to last year is kind of like,
No, that's true. That's a good point. That's a good
asterisk.
Yeah. Throw it all out. Can we throw Alabama's championship out?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Let's go to the next one.
It's gone.
Yeah, it's done. Their national championships just went from -1 to whatever their crazy number is they claim. So we got one from Fletcher Proctor at F Proctor on Twitter. Okay. 1-loss Clemson or 1-loss Alabama. Which gets the 4 seed to face undefeated Georgia again in the college football playoff?
I mean, obviously, you'd have to look at some other intangibles that we can't really foresee, but
yeah,
I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to Alabama. Like, for example, how close was their loss to Georgia in the SEC championship? Did they make the SEC championship? Those are going to be questions that would define whether or not what my answer would be in that exact moment. But let's assume that they lost to Georgia in a close game. My opinion would be that they would get in over Clemson because.
See, I have the same answer but different logic.
Okay.
My logic
is your logic that all roads lead through Birmingham?
I like that. No, my answer is still Bama, but my logic is because Fletcher's question was who gets the 4 seed, and I say Bama because to me in this scenario, it's like that means that Clemson. If Clemson only has 1 loss to Georgia in the first game of the year, and then they rattle off 12 straight wins, so Clemson would be higher than 4. So the answer has to be Alabama. That was my logic. Clemson wouldn't just be the fourth seed at that point because they'd be 12-1 ACC champions. They'd be 2-3. That was my thought. Right. But you're right. You threw in another wrinkle that I hadn't even really thought about, right? Because you could have. Let's say you have like A&M wins the West and Georgia beats A&M and goes to the playoff, and Alabama went 11-1 with their only loss to A&M, and then they get in at 4. Oh, yeah, I just threw up a little bit in my mouth thinking about that.
Yeah, gross.
I'd rather not do that. Okay, let's move on. Let's get away from that. Friend of the show, John Tweed Sports. 2 questions. First question. Which Georgia player will have the biggest breakout this year? Who's going to break out?
How are we defining breakout, Jim?
Well, to me, it's someone who, like maybe like nationally, folks don't like. You can't say like JT Daniels.
Are we talking about a guy that is going to end up on headlines on ESPN that we didn't think was going to be on headlines on ESPN? Or are we thinking about a guy? Or are we thinking about a guy that is going to be like an every down starter that was not an every down starter preseason? Does that make sense?
I don't even think it has to be that. I think it's someone who I would say who wasn't an every down starter last year. So to me, I said I was thinking Adam Anderson was my guy because he's going to be an every down starter. He's well known by Georgia fans, but outside of Georgia fans, does everyone really know him? I mean, certainly nationally, I would say no, and I think he's a name that people will know this year.
I don't know. I think
that's my logic.
He's come up a number of times already. I feel like he
has, but I feel like he's been like a third down pass rush specialist. It's kind of like now he's going to be in there.
Yeah,
and he's going to be like a 3-down guy.
So here's a question. All right, so if you're going to say him, is Lewis Cine and Chris Smith, are they breakout potential, or because I would say that they are equally in that vein, and frankly, in my opinion, more likely to have breakout seasons.
Yeah, the only thing I would say there, I would say not Cine because he was a starting safety all year last year, like every down player. So I would rule him out. Smith, I think you could put in there because he was behind LeCount until LeCount got hurt. But on my factor of or my definition of not national people don't know them. I don't know that they know. I don't know. I guess I don't really. I don't know. I know everyone because I'm a Georgia fan. I don't know. I guess I don't so much know what everyone else thinks.
Is Nolan Smith in this vein? Is Smile? Is Smile in this vein? Because
Smile's a freshman.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So, yeah.
Like if suddenly he becomes a starter and like say starts taking snaps away from a regular starter, you know what I mean? Like
then he'd totally be there.
So but that's my question. So is just the sheer fact of him being a starter breakout enough, or do we need to see like numbers behind
I think you have the leeway to define it however you want, unless you want to text John.
Dang it, John.
Get on the text thread.
Yeah, seriously. I'm gonna go Brini. I'll go Brini on this one. I was gonna go Cine, but since you kind of basically ruled out Cine, I'm gonna go Brini.
Okay, fair enough. I like that. That's a good one. Okay, if you had to bet on an award today, what are you putting money on? Daniels winning the Heisman or Nakobe Dean winning the Butkus?
Daniels winning the Heisman.
Ooh, we have a My God podcast disagreement. I'm going to go Nakobe Dean winning the Butkus because we don't ever win that. We're never up to the Heisman. All right, let's keep going. That was John again, by the way. That was his sixth.
Is he on the short list? Or the preseason list, I guess is what I should say.
Oh, Nakobe Dean, you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, God, I hope he is. Because I just said him. Yeah, but remember that it doesn't matter. Anyone can win it. You don't have to be on the list. Those preseason lists mean absolutely nothing. Okay. Actually, I guess this one was kind of similar. So this is from a DGD podcast. Which player has an unexpected breakout season? One for offense, one for defense. So we both gave defensive players to break out with John. The funny thing is I had jotted down Brini, which is what you said. So you got a breakout player for the offense? Use your same definition you used for the last question.
Yes. I'm gonna backwards. He is on the watch list, by the way.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
And we know JT's on the watch list for the Heisman. Okay. Offensive breakout player. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out if I want to go with a lineman or if I want to go with if I want to go with a skill position player. I mean, All right, so I'll give you my two, because he's not gonna show up on the stat column necessarily, but I think Amarius Mims is going to be a breakout player for the offensive line.
I think that would be a great thing if he is. So, but yeah,
based on everything that I'm hearing, that seem or that that we've all been reading the same guys, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
Everybody's got the hype, and I've heard and we've talked about it. Amarius Mims sounds like he's the real deal. Friend of the podcast and question submitter has also been talking about him too.
That's right.
Maybe that's cheating a little bit, John. Sorry. The skill position player breakout season. I'm gonna have to go with Brock I'm gonna have to go with Brock Bowers, even though I feel like that's gonna be a bit of a cop out, but
that's what I was gonna say. My God, a podcast agrees again. We're back. We're back agreeing on everything. Okay. Next one comes from Dogs Forever at Dogs_Forever, which I'm not mistaken is one of John Tweets' brothers, by the way. So
yeah, I think they are. Yeah.
Yeah. This one's amazing. Actually, maybe we should have saved this one for next week. I'm going to say it anyways because I started. How many people get so wasted at the tailgate that they don't make it to the stadium? And this was for Clemson. So I'll give you my end because there was actually some back and forth on Twitter where it was like, I mean, are we talking like just in general or like within our group? And I think like my dad chimed in and all this stuff. And it was like, I think it was like in general because clearly in our group, everyone will make it. And John was like, thank you for the confidence. So, and that's actually kind of what I went with. I said a lot, but not in our group, obviously.
I was about to say, I feel like that there's going to be some students that maybe don't make it, or like some young bucks that got daddy's tickets that are probably going to pass out in the parking lot, kind of thing. I don't know, man.
It's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long day.
Here's my position, sir. If you have a ticket and you are too inebriated to attend the game, I will be happy to liberate that ticket from you.
Okay, next one comes from UGA Hoops Mafia. Everyone knows UGA Hoops Mafia. Also a lover of the gifts. And has some signature spelling in this one. Which running back will produce the most total yards this season? Season spelled SZN because it's UGA Hoops Mafia. So of the backs, who's going to get the most total yards?
Of the backs, who's going to get the most total yards? I mean, if we're going total yards, I'm going to go with Cook.
Okay. I'm going to disagree. Yeah. I'm going to say Zamir White because I think everyone is sleeping on Zamir White. And I know, Cook's going to have a lot of – I mean, I think he's going to have a lot of receiving yards. But I'm going to go Zamir White because I think he's going to have a lot of rushing yards.
Well, all right, so here, it's something that I feel like that maybe is being overlooked. Doesn't he return kicks sometimes too?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like maybe like when he was younger, I don't think he returned any kicks last year though that I can recall. Because last year it was pretty much, Kyrus, McIntosh, but McIntosh was out a lot last year due to injury. But I don't know. I mean, I could look it up.
We could look it up.
He returned. He had 0 kick returns last year. So
0 kick returns.
Like I said, Jackson and McIntosh had the bulk of it, and then actually Zamir White had 3 returns.
It was 2019. 2019.
Yeah,
he had.
I'm gonna say that sounds right. Yeah, I just didn't remember him having it last year.
Fair enough.
This is from UGA and Vidal Fan 05. Who will wear the Savage pads first? Who gets the first turnover?
I think I responded to all of them. I believe the Scene is going to wear the Savage pads first.
Okay, that's a good one. I'm going to disagree. We're going to break from My God a Podcast tradition, and I'm going to go with
Darion Kendrick.
Are you doing that for the story, for the poetic story, or like
100%? I'm doing that for the story. Kendrick picks off. Ui Angalale. It's perfect. It's perfect. Yes, that's how you've discovered how my logic works.
This is. I mean, frankly, it's a beautiful story. I mean, I love it personally.
It would be awesome.
I would be happy to be wrong, regardless of what my answer was, because
Yeah.
if we're picking him off, like that's just going to be gravy for our team. Because, yeah, I mean, if the defense can take the ball away more than they can score, like you like our chances in that regard.
Right. For sure. Let's see. We got friend of the show, Tim Riley. Friend of the show, Tim Riley is like back on Twitter. I feel like he had like a hiatus.
He was on vacation too. He had a birthday celebration as well.
He did. He just had a big birthday. So happy birthday, Tim. Sorry, I missed it.
AKA miserable in Minnesota.
That's right. At T Riley Dog on Twitter. Unexpected toughest home game. Maybe I already did that, right? Because he said like favor the okay, and he gets specific. You like to ask clarifying questions, Sean. So he says, i.e., favored the most yet the closest contest.
Ooh, wrinkle.
Yeah.
Favored the most,
but then
closest.
But then
okay. Let's see. So I immediately have my answer to that. I don't even have to look. I don't even have to think about it. It will be the South Carolina game.
Okay.
So I'll give you my reason. So number one, the University of Georgia football squad exists to ruin my birthday.
Okay.
So, fortunately, it's not my birthday week this year because we've got the September 4th game. My birthday's September 8th, for those that are wondering. My daughter was born on September 8th as well, so we share the same birthday. And it just so happens that when she was born, we played South Carolina and lost in epic fashion. Fun fact for that birthday treat. We also, historically, if you look at that matchup, that's one of the tightest games on our schedule, like historically. So just from a stat standpoint, I'm going to say South Carolina, even though just because I'm going to go with tradition because that game is always historically brutal for us. It also is like the primer for who's going to win the East, who's going to win the East for us. So if we beat South Carolina, which I'm not saying that I don't believe that we're not going to because they're in complete disarray. However,
okay.
I believe
we got back on track there. Okay.
I believe that the margin of victory for that game will be pretty substantial. And I'm saying that based on history, I don't believe that it's going to be a cakewalk.
Yeah. Well, that's fair. I went with UAB because 5127 GATA says it'll be a track game. That's my logic. Okay. And then Tim had surprise team on the schedule, good or bad.
Surprise team, good or bad?
It could be either one. It could either be someone who you think is going to be good, but they're actually bad, or it could be someone who you would think would be bad, but it's going to be good.
I guess, do we need to run down who we think is going to be good or bad?
No. Off the cuff. You got anyone? I'm going to give you mine. Mine is painful. Go ahead.
Oh, jeez. All right, I'll let you go first.
Georgia Tech.
They're going to be good or bad?
They're going to be better than you think.
Damn it.
Because they've been so bad. I think they're going to be less bad this year. I'm not saying they're going to be good, but I think they're going to be better than you would think.
I'm going to go FTMF and say that the wheels start falling off the clown bus.
I like that. That's a good one. That will make me happy. Okay, this one is I love this one. This one I had already. This was in my list of things to pick, but then friend of the show Tim Riley sent it to us as a tweet, so I didn't have to list it. What would you set Well, he says over under uniform combinations this season. Hashtag uniform Twitter. Hashtag JerseyGate. Hashtag Munsoning. So you want me to set the line and then you pick the over under, or how do you want to do this?
JerseyGate, what's that?
We're about to get the next question.
You set the line. Go ahead. You're good at setting the lines because I feel like you make interesting lines.
Okay, this is at total combinations of uniforms, right?
Total combinations
of uniforms. So every year there's at least two.
Hold on. So we're saying that like if we wear white pants with black tops and red tops, like so that counts as two combinations. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah. So basically, in a standard year, you have two, right? You've got the red jersey and the silver breeches, and you've got the white jersey and the silver breeches.
Right.
Right. That's two. That's normal. Anything and a red helmet. Any permutation to be is another.
Okay.
All right. I set it at 3.5.
You're setting it at 3.5?
Yep, that's my line.
I'm going to take the under.
Okay. That's fair.
I feel like that was pretty generous.
So you think it should be 2.5?
I do think it should be 2.5.
Because to me, I think we're going to wear. Here's why. I'll give you my logic. I feel like I'm pretty confident we're going to wear 3. I would say like 3 and a push because I think they're going to wear black jerseys in a game this year. Is my guess. I don't think the red pants will come back. That's why I said at 3.5 because to me the question is, will there be a fourth combo? So you would have said if I said it at 2.5, do you take the over or under?
I'm gonna take the. God, I really want the black. I really want the.
2.5's the right over under. Then is kind of what you're saying because you're like struggling.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Tim's question is 2.5. Like that's the right.
At 2.5, I take the over.
Yeah, see, that's me too. Okay, so I think we're in agreement. It's just about where you see the line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although I will say, we play Tennessee in Knoxville.
My God, a freshman.
Wow, I didn't even see that one coming. I was expecting you to I thought you were literally about to start cackling. I thought it was just like a long wind up for a classic Jim Wood cackle.
Awesome. All right, the question everyone's been waiting for. Friend of the show, Hunter Jones at Hunter Jones checks in. Will the dogs don all red? I've heard some rumors.
Oh, the gift. Clark, that's the gift that keeps on giving.
Okay, so for those who don't know, I would assume if anyone listening, especially at this point, if you've made it this far, I'm assuming you know about Hunter's controversial uniform tweet where he said he had inside sources.
Highly controversial.
With people actually mad at him that he said he had inside sources that Georgia was going to wear all red and Clemson was going to wear all purple. The funniest thing to me about it was we were, right when it happened and it started blowing up, we set an over-under of when would the notifications, because we were tagging this week, when would the notifications stop? And I believe you said it at Tuesday. And we hit the over because I got a notification at 8 o'clock tonight on Wednesday afterwards. People are still talking about it. So we had Mike Griffith was big mad about it. Buck Boohoo talked about it on his show, like it actually might happen. But Hunter did get the shout out from Brandon Adams on Dog Nation Daily. And I felt like Brandon Adams had the correct, or at least for me, I don't know. I liked his take on it. It was like, yes, there's obviously fake news, but it's a fun thing to talk about. So anyways, to answer the question, I believe no. I do not believe they will come out in red jerseys and red pants in Charlotte. So what about you, John? What do you think?
I have never wanted to have us come out in a what I find hideous uniform more at this point. I want them to come out in red so bad for so many reasons that I can't even contain myself. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes, just because everyone expects it to be no. And I want to have a little piece of the victory that Hunter is going to have screaming in that building when they come running out in all red. And just so that we can go back in history and do a freezing cold take recap of everybody that said that this was bull.
Well, it was made up. We did get that's my favorite part of the whole thing is all people who like days later are chiming in and like, this is fake. It's like, well, I mean, he said it was fake. He said he was joking within like an hour. So
I know.
Go check someone's timeline before you get angry and respond to something.
But it's like, but it's also one of those things where it's like, I'm at the Kentucky Derby. Let me just take the long odds. I'll just take the long odds. Man, when that Joker hits, you're going to be running around the stadium throwing it in everybody's face.
That's true. That's true. I think it was on the dog vent. Oh my gosh! Someone liked the tweet while we've been recording. I just got a notification. All right. So statistics. Hunter's tweet now has 126 comments, 392 retweets, and 869 likes. That's unbelievable. He officially went viral with that one for sure.
Yes.
Okay, let's.
He went Taliban Twitter. He went Taliban Twitter viral.
That's right. That's true.
UGA Taliban Twitter. I feel like I need to clarify given the times, but UGA Taliban Twitter.
No, I think that was from the dog vent.
That was from the dog vent.
I was with the other ones, and I forgot it. I think someone was basically like that. If Hunter like spoke it into existence, then it was just going to become impressive, which I agree. Okay, man, we're kind of deep into this. We got a ton of over unders from at Coach Trill Belichick, who was the one who ran the Georgia Twitter bracket back in the spring. So let's do these rapid fire. Now I'm going to do a subset. All right. For JT Daniels, over under 30 passing touchdowns.
I'm going to take the under.
Okay. I'm going to go over. My backing is Fromm actually had 30 in 2018. JT Daniels, over under 3,000 passing yards.
Oh, I'll take the over.
Okay. I'll go over. Offensive points per game, over under 35.
I'm going to take the over.
I was going to take the over. I'm going to stay with the over. Defensive points per game, 20.
I'm going to take the over, unfortunately.
God, I thought you were going to take the under so I could take the over and we're agreeing again too much again. Okay, but whatever. I did it. All right. Now we get into your running back stuff, although I guess it doesn't totally get to this. So you think over under 1,000 yards rushing for Zamir White?
I believe that Zamir White will be the next 1,000-yard rusher for the University of Georgia.
Agreed. All right. Kendall Milton, same question.
I don't believe that Kendall gets there. Cringe. I
think he'll be the next closest, but I don't think he'll get there either. I mean, he could get like 750, 800 something. We'll see.
Kendall, if you're listening, give us all the sauce. I want too much sauce, but I'm giving you the under. I'm sorry.
He can still have a great season. Cook 750 total yards over under.
Wait, what?
James Cook over under 750 total yards.
I feel like this is a trick question. I'm going to take the over. Yeah. I'm like scrambling to like do some Googling on his total yards from the last few seasons.
Yeah, I took the over. No, you don't have to do that. I took the over as well. I think that's the play.
I know, but I feel like that's way too low.
You think it should have been set higher?
I think it should have been set higher. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. I'll take the over.
All right. Jordan Davis sacks over under at 5.
So similar to the James Cook question, I feel like that this is actually pretty close because he doesn't really get a whole lot of sacks. He hasn't historically gotten a lot of sacks.
Agreed.
I'm gonna take the push on this one because I don't really want to say. I don't want to say under, but I'm gonna take the push on it.
I'm gonna say under because I feel like he doesn't get a ton of sacks. He only had 1 last year. Again, I know threw everything out last year, but anyway, 7 sacks over under for Adam Anderson.
I'm gonna take the under. He's gonna be. They're gonna key him. I believe that he's gonna see a lot of double teams. He's gonna definitely be an impact, but I don't think he's gonna get nearly the level of sacks that. I don't think he's gonna get 7.
He had 6.5 last year. I'm going over.
Yeah, but. Yeah.
But he didn't have the attention. It was exactly. Fair. All right. This is the one that you wanted to make sure we included.
Hold on. Let me prepare myself.
Point differential versus Georgia Tech plus 28.5 over under.
Yes. This is the most savage over under question ever. Oh man, I'm gonna have to take the under though. Ooh. That's just too juicy.
That is a lot. This is where I looked at all these ahead of time, and you would think I would have looked at how much we beat them by the last years. I feel like it is a lot. To disagree, I'll take the over, even though they were my surprise team. But whatever, I don't like that. So I'm gonna say
I think we talked about it, but I think that we should answer that question. The game preview. We should put a pin in that one and answer that one again.
Yes, we will. We'll pin that, and we will. We'll
just because it's such a fun question because it's just so amazing to think about.
Well, it's interesting too. When we get there, let's see. I'm curious to see how close that is to the actual line by the time we get there. Right? That's going to be interesting. So
that would be amazing.
We will monitor that and we will revisit that one in November, Thanksgiving week for sure.
I personally love the savagery of the question.
it was absolute savage. Absolute savage. We appreciate that. Always appreciate hating on Georgia Tech. All right, well, that was all for the listener questions. We've got a few more predictions just on the season level that we'll do, and then we'll wrap it up. So,
okay.
Let's start with the SEC. So, who SEC West champion?
I got to go with Bama.
Yeah, I feel like it has to be Bama until someone else does it. I mean, granted, LSU did it, but they don't have Burrow coming back. Actually, so we didn't talk about this. I'll ask quickly. Last year you were talking. You felt like Coach O was going to be the next Gene Chizik, right? Isn't that what he said? He's going to be the next Gene Chizik.
Yeah,
you still feel like that?
I do. I absolutely do.
Okay.
I fully expect that he will be a. I fully expect that he will be a hot seat candidate here very shortly.
Okay. Before we get to the East champ. Oh, these go hand in hand. So, well, I guess I'll just go East champ. Do you predict that Georgia will win the East, or are you going to go with another team?
I can't look at you with a straight face and seriously answer this question.
Agreed. So that's why I kind of almost just moved on to the next one.
I believe that the University of Georgia will win the East.
Okay, so what about? So I was looking at for season win total, and back to Coach Trillbill had this in there. He had set the over under at 11.5, but I looked online like on all the betting sites and everything, and the over under is actually 10.5 is what it's set at for Georgia. I think Clemson's at 11.5, but Georgia is not. So
I'm going to take so his question is 11.5.
well, that's what Coach Trillbill said that, but I'm asking 10.5. I mean, I guess you could answer both if you want, but 10.5
You're asking-
is what that's what all the gambling sites, like the actual line for Georgia over under win total is 10.5. Now that's regular season, right?
Oh,
So,
regular season. Okay.
yeah, you can't include SEC championship or bowls or whatever. So
Can't include the SEC championship. Okay.
that's not included. So out of your 12 regular season games, over under 10.5 wins.
I'm going over.
I am too. I mean, to me, like I can definitely see a loss coming in somewhere. I don't think we lose two. Not with this schedule. Not with this schedule.
And just for shits and giggles, Coach Trill, I'll take your over.
Oh wow! You're going with the undefeated season. All the pressure. So then that well, I guess that doesn't give it away. So SEC, do you predict that the Dogs will win the SEC championship?
It's now or never, baby.
Should we get there?
I feel like that the stars are aligned, the schedule is aligned, the opportunity is aligned. I feel like he's got the coaches. I feel like he's got the players. Yeah, if there's a non SEC championship season, I think that if we were to win the SEC championship and say win the college football playoff game and then lose in the national championship game, I could still look at that as a successful season. But if we don't win the SEC, I think that the wheels have fallen off.
That's pretty far. I feel like.
maybe this is the bourbon.
Maybe that's the bourbon.
Maybe that's the bourbon talking.
But like, yeah, to me, wheels fall off is like not make the SEC. Well, God, that's even still that's so severe.
If we don't make the SEC, like
yeah, I mean, if you look at our schedule and the way the rotation is, I mean,
all right.
Out of the West, we always have Auburn, right? But then we just got Arkansas, and that's it. I mean, there's no Bama, there's no LSU, there's no A&M. I mean, we should make the SEC championship for sure. So I mean, that's my prediction too. I predict the SEC championship as well. I mean, if you're going to ask me now, I got to think if that's what I would think.
Let's back into this. Like, I mean, if we really want to go, like, it sounds like we really want to go down this path, but like, this is a season preview. We haven't done the season preview for, look at the schedule. Where do you see the loss? Where are the losses on the schedule?
No, I'm with you. I mean, to me, the all right. So it's either Clemson. If you're going to say one loss, I mean, the two best teams on the schedule are Clemson and Florida. It's got to be one of those. And I think you and I are on the same page, and I know like Graham Coffey's on the same page. I think Florida is going to take a significant step back from last year. They had like the greatest offense ever last year, and they had 4 losses. And Emory Jones does not scare me. So to me, it's basically, I mean, this is bold, but it's like, do you or do you not beat Clemson? I mean, everything else on paper, we should win the rest of the games. So I don't know. That's how it sits with me. And then again, like to what we were saying earlier we both picked Alabama to win the West, but we don't know if they will, right? And if they do, maybe this is the year for Kirby. I've got to hope that it is and believe that it is. So I'm with you.
I really hope that Kirby is like the first one to really kind of upset Saban. I really hope that Lane Kiffin doesn't beat him to it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's got, the odds in the West are higher because he's got multiple former assistants, right? Because you got Jimbo and Kiffin over there.
Well, they've also got guaranteed games because the only way that we're going to see him is if we meet him in the SEC championship game.
Yep.
Which I'll throw out a question. Bama loses, doesn't get into the national championship game. backdoors into the college playoff.
Okay,
Georgia
so it doesn't get into the SEC championship. Backdoors into the playoff. Okay.
Georgia wins, becomes undefeated. They're ranked number 1. Bama's ranked number 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They lose.
Who is they?
Bama loses. Bama loses
To Georgia.
So we don't. Yeah. Oh. No. What I was trying to say. What I was trying to figure out was like, is there a scenario where basically we don't face Alabama and we still win the national championship? Is that monkey off our back?
Yeah.
You still didn't beat Bama, guys.
Right. Okay. So I think so that's a good question. That's actually a really good question. I would say to the like normal person, the answer is yes. But to like Bama fan online who is obsessed with Georgia for who knows what reason, like that's all they're gonna say. And like Feinbaum will say that, and some random talking heads will say that. But I think your average college football fan will not say that. You can only play who's on your schedule. Like, so
is the average
that's my opinion.
Is the average college football fan still going to not say that when they hear it over and over again from the Paul Feinbaums and the Kirk Herbstreits of the world? When it inevitably would come up. So
it'll come up.
I'm just asking, as a Georgia fan, do you care?
I don't care. No, I do not care. Now, let me put it this way. I want to get over the Alabama hump. But a national championship, when Georgia doesn't face Alabama, I will not care at all. I mean, it's something I've been waiting for my whole life. I mean, sure, I was alive when Georgia won it. You know, I was born in 1980, so yes, I was alive. I don't, obviously don't know that. But, I've been waiting for my whole life. I could care less. I could not care less. About that at all. That will not bother me one bit.
I could not care less, but I would also file that under. I absolutely want. I want an undefeated. I want an undefeated Alabama in the SEC championship game versus an undefeated Georgia in the SEC championship game.
Oh, dude, that would be incredible. Oh, absolutely, 100% agree. 100% agree. Shockingly agree, but yes, no, that's gotta be amazing. So, who are your four teams in the playoffs? So obviously, we both got Georgia, 11-1 or 12-0 winning the SEC. So we got Georgia in. Who do you think will be the other 3 teams in?
Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama.
Okay, I've got Oklahoma instead of Alabama. That's my prediction.
So one loss Alabama loses out to an undefeated Oklahoma? Is that what we're thinking?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
That's
fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't see Oklahoma going undefeated, but
yeah, that's fair.
It would be interesting though if my prediction ended up coming true, because then literally Georgia would have beaten 2 teams in the in the top 4 in the season, and it only is going to fuel the fire of a burning passion for the 12-team college playoff.
which 2 days ago we were hearing may not happen because of the alliance, but my faith in the alliance has dwindled. So I don't know if we're gonna be able to hold it off.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's about it for the season. I am excited that it's here. I'm ready for some football. Excited to see a bunch of folks up here in Charlotte. It's pretty cool for me that the first game's gonna be here where I live. I'm super pumped. So, and we'll regroup next week to talk about that.
It almost feels surreal because it's like,
doesn't it?
Oh crap! It's next week. Like, you got schools going on, you got COVID resurging. I mean, I went on my birthday trip. We're about to get into birthday, like our family's birthday, like extravaganza here the next several months. But Carter, by the way, turns 10 tomorrow. So
Wait, Carter's birthday is Thursday?
Carter's birthday is tomorrow.
So is Kim's. Kim and Carter have the same birthday.
Very nice. Yep. So I'll be getting up early to go get chicken biscuits for the young lad, podcast aficionado.
The most famous podcaster in the Powell household.
Exactly. So anyway, so we got birthday season going on as well for us too. So it's like, oh crap. Oh yeah. I'm going to Charlotte next week.
Yeah, man. I'm super pumped. I know a lot of our Twitter friends will be here as well. Get to connect with some people. So I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a good time.
That in and of itself, isolated from the game will be probably the coolest thing for me personally.
Yeah. And we'll talk. We'll preview that next week. So
absolutely
cool. All right, man. Well, we will. We got to figure out exactly when we're going to talk next week. We're doing some work on exact schedule, but generally speaking, should be similar to last season with game previews and game reviews every week as we get into here. So can't wait to get started, man.
Yeah. Let's kick the tires and light the fires.
Absolutely. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.